Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore Iowa stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today we're going to talk about youth nicotine abuse and vaping, a crisis that has the potential to really harm Iowa children. We're joined today by a couple of student youth leaders in tobacco and nicotine prevention, Courtney and Monet, as well as community health consultant Jane Larkin with the Iowa Department of Public Health, Division of Tobacco Use Prevention and Control, and the iStep program. Together, our student guests and the iStep program have been working hard to sort of attack this crisis that's hurting our kids. So let's find out why they're here and what iStep is about. Jane?
Great, thank you, Peter. Very excited to be here today. So as Peter had mentioned, I am with the Iowa Department of Public Health in the Tobacco Control and Prevention Department. So I provide support to initiatives that are going on for tobacco control at the local level. And part of that is working with the youth. And with the youth that we have here today, it's working with iStep chapters. And iStep stands for Iowa Students for Tobacco Education and Prevention. And these groups, they are located throughout Iowa, and they do incredible work to raise awareness on tobacco, the issues surrounding tobacco, and really creating a movement with their peers to help address this. So currently, as Peter has shared, we have two of our executive council members here today. This year, we have a total of 13 executive council members with a total of, I want to say, 93 chapters in the state of Iowa, which is incredible, and where we span the state. And Peter, I've got to say that they are doing an incredible job of connecting with their peers, getting the word out, and doing a fantastic job of educating their community, not only their peers, but also their school system as well, too.
You know, this is a great point. One of the things that we learn when it comes to the future is that our children today, they're going to grow up with the kids they're living with and the problems that surround them. We're not going to be around to help them, and to see them step forward and champion a cause like this is really important, because it shouldn't be a world of adults telling them what to do and what not to do. We should be helping empower the youth like the iStep program does to be able to speak from a solid point of view in terms of science, community health improvement, and a desire to make the world a better place, we hope. Let's start with learning a little bit about Monet and your path to sort of the top with the iStep program and what brought you here.
Hi, as you said, I'm Monet. I am the current president of iStep. I've been in it for going on 6 years. I started when I was in 7th grade. Both of my parents used to smoke rather heavily, and just seeing how that physically affected them and all the misconceptions around tobacco usage have, that's part of why I find it very important to spread this information.
And Courtney, what brings you here today?
My name is Courtney Sweet. I am also a member of the iStep Executive Council. I also serve on the Tobacco Use Prevention and Control Commission, and I was recently elected as a campaign for tobacco-free kids National Youth Ambassador. I started learning about vaping and tobacco use a year ago when I was in 7th grade, and I'm just really passionate about preventing innocent children from being addicted to tobacco, and I'm really here to try and create a tobacco-free generation.
Those are great points. Now, to ask you a question, Jane, you've been working with these kids, and I know you come from a long career of working with kids. How impressive is it to see their work in the field and how they've taken to this issue?
Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing because it really takes the power of youth and being able to, they're spearheading all of these activities at the local level within their schools. And so they're going out there, they're coming up with the activities of how they think would be the best way to reach their peers. And they are coming up with the education points that they think are important to share, and how to get that information out to them. So it's rewarding. It's very rewarding. And as a leader for some youth groups back in the day, it's impressive to see the impact that youth have out in the community and within their local school system. So they make a huge impact.
Okay, that's a great point. We're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation on this very important topic, youth nicotine use and vaping. And we want to really hear some stories from Courtney and Monet about how this is important and what that's doing to lift up the communities in their schools. See you after the break. You don't want to miss this.
I don't know how we would have survived without Mediacom. We have 5 kids, my wife and I, and we have Mediacom for all of our internet and all of our cable services. So I'm stuck in my house, but at the same time, I'm connected to people all over the world, and it's been fantastic.
Thanks to Mediacom, I've had reliable internet to continue to work business as usual, that I can continue to provide for myself and my family.
Right now, we all feel like the world is in a standstill. The internet has played a huge role in allowing us to stay connected to our jobs and the kids schooling online and finding fun and creative ways to stay connected with the ones that we love. We couldn't do it without Mediacom.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about how the world our children live in is changing, how our children are often taking the lead in dealing with the risks they face, like today's topic, nicotine use and vaping. And it's just so fascinating to see how our school kids work as champions to make the world a better place. And it's not only effective, but I think it makes a lot of us proud. Courtney, when you do this and you sort of think about the kids that you work with, you have like-minded people you work with, and then you have the other side where you see the vaping and the smoking. How hard is it to connect and communicate with those populations that you're trying to empower?
It's one of our greatest challenges, and I have struggled with this personally. There's always those people that are exciting and they're ready to join the movement. And so you have those supporters and those people that are positive towards your movement. And then you have the other side, and they think that vaping is super cool and it's a new tool for popularity. And they're like, oh, why are you not vaping? That's just so uncool, and I don't want to be a part of your movement. And so we're really trying to just hit them with the facts and really give them stories of how addiction can ruin your life. And we find that those really impact nicotine users at a young age, and it makes them realize that they are headed down a wrong path and they need to seek help and attention.
Now, Monet, I'm a former smoker. We're not here to talk about me, but I will say that smoking starts out like that. It's cool, it's romantic. You know, we had heroes like John Wayne and James Dean, and the cigarette hanging out of your mouth was like, oh, the epitome of cool. But it's only cool for a very brief period of time, and then it becomes very burdensome. It doesn't taste good, it's unhealthy. I mean, but it's still really, really hard to quit. Now, when you're dealing with kids, do you still find it, you know, they're not adults, they're kids, but is it hard for them to quit? Do you sense that they might be strongly addicted to this without them really knowing it?
Oh, certainly, without a doubt. I have several friends that have struggled with this issue and are still struggling, especially in these rather difficult times of social distancing and not being able to keep up with any sense of normality or normal schedule. A lot of them are falling back into old habits of nicotine usage. It's something a lot of people use to deal with stress, and it is not a foreign tool of escapism for a lot of youth.
Now, I get that, Jane, when you're looking at this, we know now, I mean, years past, it was cancer, smoking cigarettes and cancer. And this vaping thing became sort of a solution to all that, even though we know it's really not. You're just burning things differently and you're putting different chemicals in your lungs. But we also now know that nicotine has a tremendously detrimental effect on a developing brain.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How is it affecting the performance of kids in our schools?
Right. Thank you, Peter. The brain is still developing. up until age 25. So this is a really important point. And this is one of the messages that we do like to share when we're in the classroom, when we are giving community presentations, is that the teen years are still pretty vulnerable. And so we need to be able to share information and equip young people with the tools to make educated choices. And knowing the impact that these chemicals can have and how addictive they are to the person, and the impact that tobacco has to those around them as well too. It's not just affecting the person who's using the tobacco product, but it's having an impact on their friends, on their family members, on society as a whole as well too. So that's part of what we're helping them to help connect the dots.
What are some things about nicotine that you may see as an outward effect if somebody's strongly affected? Would it be things like anxiety and shorter temper? I mean, are you identifying any sort of symptomology with nicotine use by youth?
Nicotine is addictive. It's one of the most addicting substances out there. And so we would see the same behaviors, say that somebody might be exhibiting from alcohol use. And so we see some of those irritable behaviors. We see that they're preoccupied. When are they going to have their next nicotine fix? How are they going to get it? How are they going to hide it from their peers or from their family members? And so all of those, along with a wealth of other concerning behaviors, would be indicative of possible nicotine abuse.
Yeah, Monet, for you, we pretty much know that there's nothing good about nicotine. You shouldn't be using nicotine. There are some prescription parallels for people with like cancer treatment and nausea, but for the most part, there's no real good reason for a person to do it. It's not like eating your spinach or having a glass of milk. Do you feel, in your generation and the kids around you, do you feel sort of mad at an industry that's been targeting kids with vaping and trying to get them to do something that has no positive or redeeming value?
Incredibly so. It is beyond frustrating. And I think a lot of it has to do with terminology. There's something we call a lower perceived risk. We know that nicotine is not a good thing for you, and highly addictive, as we talked about. But a lot of youth, I believe, associate the word tobacco with rather negative connotations, and with all of this deceptive marketing from vaping companies with the whole, it's just nicotine, it doesn't have the smoke, it's not burnt, it's not going to harm you. A lot of youth have become to associate vaping with something that's clean and light and not lethal, not harmful. And it's beyond frustrating when it has become so deeply ingrained in our, at least in my generation, that it's something that is acceptable or cool. It's unacceptable in my opinion. It's
well, that's an excellent point. We're going to take another short break. We come back, we're going to ask our guests to take a closer look at how current events have influenced vaping and tobacco use, and the sort of relationship between big business and what kids do today. We'll see you after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared, and you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Welcome back to Surviving Dad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking about vaping and tobacco. And tobacco use has been around for a long time. We know it's not good for people. And what we have seen change, though, that's not been a long time, is big business targeting children with ads all over social media to get them to do things that are bad for them. And vaping is a primary candidate. Courtney, Juul burst on the scene. It became a nexus of cool. And quite frankly, our population of adults, those of us that were supposed to protect you, didn't see it coming. We were caught blindside. By the time we reacted, middle school kids were already vaping. And we're trying to fix these things, but we're asking you to shoulder a lot of that effort. Is that something that you can use to get people that are struggling with vaping to realize that they've been taken advantage of and get them to sort of join your team?
One thing we've known is that youth have always been targeted, and Juul is branding to us that it's this new, cool product that everyone wants to try. However, I can say for a fact that Juul isn't cool. Juul, it looks exactly like a flash drive, so for the young mind, this is perfect. It's easy to conceal for your parents. They don't know how to use technology. They think it's just a flash drive. They don't realize that it's something that can damage your lungs for your life. And so they're really branding to young students, and these young minds don't realize the dangers. They think it's just something fun, something easy to conceal. They enjoy seeing the cloud of smoke coming out of their mouths, and this is perceived as popularity, and it's a real tool within the school that makes you seem cooler than everyone else. And this is simply not true. They're not presented with the facts, and it's really challenging for those students to realize that they're being marketed to and they're being targeted, and they're really following in line with exactly what the big tobacco companies want. And we really need to help them see that this is not a cool thing and that Juul is not cool at all.
You know, Monet, for you, sort of like addiction, when you start looking at interventions and stuff, you get a lot of issues with stigma. And I can work both ways. I mean, you know, if you're against vaping and smoking, maybe you sort of feel a different way towards people that do it. And then the people that do it feel different toward you. What kind of interactions do you have, and how do you overcome those sort of stigmatized biases that start growing into a culture where there's people that do something and people that don't?
Yeah, I would agree that those conversations can be rather difficult to have. I think one of the most important things when you're approaching having a conversation about tobacco usage and possibly, hopefully, ending tobacco usage, I think one of the most important things that you can do is continue to reiterate that you love the person that you're talking to, that you are just another person alongside them. We all make choices and have to reap the benefits of. I think it is imperative, most important, that you continue to have the person you're talking to know that you consider them smart, worthwhile, a friend. I don't think you can hate anybody out of habit. I don't think you can disapprove enough to make somebody want to change who they are or what they're doing. I think the only way you can change a behavior or help somebody change their behavior is showing them that tobacco usage is not something that they want to do, how it can negatively affect their body, and that you care about them, that their health is important to you.
Question for you, Jane. What's the breakdown for, say, middle school kids and high school kids? What percentage of boys versus girls use vapes?
Oh, that's a great question, Peter. I don't have that information on me right now, but that's definitely something that we can look into and get that information to you. But I would say I see females and males both vaping, using tobacco products. I think one of the things that we're still facing is that a lot of the middle high school students don't realize that vaping is a nicotine product. They don't realize that there is a substance, an addictive substance in there that will take control of their lives and change their lives. And so that's one of the things that we hope to do as well too, is to be able to share that this is not a harmless, you think it might be harmless with the flavoring that has been out there, but these are not harmless products. These are products that will really have an impact on your health and on your community as a whole too, with your peers.
Now, Courtney, ultimately, it seems as if as you grow older and more powerful in the world, somebody's going to have to go up against these big businesses that keep targeting kids. I mean, I'll just be honest, do you feel as if that's sort of a failing of the world that we're giving you? I'll speak from an older generation. I mean, doesn't it seem weird that we allow predators, the nature of nicotine purveyors or even alcohol sales, into your lives so liberally that you have to actually get up and do something about it?
I think it is incredibly wrong that the students and the young people are the ones that have to make a difference. But I also really agree with it that young people need to get on their feet and start making a change in their world. I think the tobacco industry is so big and there are so many addicted users that are following right along with those companies that you're not going to overthrow it with adults. You really need that young voice to stand up to an adult and say, hey, I'm a young child and I already know this, and so you need to make a difference, and you need to give up big tobacco, and you need to start speaking out, and we really need to take on the tobacco industry. And it starts with one voice, and everyone joins in, and then next thing you know, we have a tobacco-free generation.
That's a great point. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to invite you to come back after the break and share some final comments and good advice for our viewers. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
While a lot is changing in our world, at Mediacom, our focus remains the same, making sure you have the fastest, most reliable connection possible. During this critical time, we know your needs are changing. You may be working or learning from home, relying on telemedicine, or finding new ways to keep everyone entertained. If you need more speed, call or go online, and Mediacom will double your speed immediately for as low as $10 more a month for 1 year.
Talking about changes in the world around us and how our youth are getting involved, championing the fight against vaping and nicotine use. It's now time for our guests to share some practical advice. As a parent, a teen, an older brother or sister, or a friend, this is important stuff. Jane, what would you have to share?
I would say do not hesitate to have those hard conversations. Don't shy away. Ask them about their tobacco use. Ask them what they know about vaping, what they know about nicotine. And if they are using, encourage them to get help. So we have a cessation program out there that is just for youth. It's called My Life, My Quit. And that's another avenue that iStep is really taking the initiative on, is getting information out there about the cessation program. To have somebody start with that, they can text Start My Quit to 1-855-891-9989. You can also look up more information on the mylifemyquit.com website. But again, don't hesitate, don't shy away from these important conversations.
That's fantastic advice. And we'll have some of that contact information in the credits for the show so people can write that down. Monet.
To give advice to youth who are considering tobacco usage or have already been in its claws, I think one of the most important things that you need to recognize for yourself is that you make choices for yourself. We can sit here and preach to you and tell you why this is bad for you. You're receiving influence from tobacco companies and from your peers, and there's so many outside forces that are telling you what's cool, what's good, what's bad, and what you should avoid. But when it comes down to it, it's a choice that you need to make. You need to consider how it's going to affect your body, your life, and where you're going to be in the coming years. Teenage years are a very important time in your life, and all you can do is try your best to make good decisions in this continuing time.
And Courtney.
In 30 years, what kind of a person do you want to be remembered as? You're not going to be remembered for the things you said or the clothes you wore. You're going to be remembered for the kind of person you are and you have always been. Now, is that person someone who's kind and who is always reaching out to help others? Or is that a person who is addicted to drugs and who is constantly leaving and thinking about when their next smoke is going to be and where they're going to get their next hit at? Every decision you make as a teen and as an adult affects the rest of your life. It affects your future generation and it affects the people around you. So I ask you to make good decisions and to always think about what your actions are going to be in the future and how you can have a positive impact on yourself and others.
You know, Jane, I'm very proud of these girls for what they're doing. And I love, they show a sense of importance that even when I grew up at their age, I don't remember seeing. Now, part of that's maybe the failings of our generations, but we're trying to do everything we can to empower them. So, you know, I'm glad for what you do with iStep. Thank you very much. And girls, thank you very much for sharing your stories on the show. And thank you for joining us today. You can go to our website, ahealthyiowa.org, for more information. Keep your eye on Mediacom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore Iowa stories of survival, hope, and inspiration on Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.